church? Why are you focusing on digital church?
Man, I think digital really was just the outcome of what we saw was happening.
Yeah.
So in conversations we had, and I go, being in Europe for 10 years, it was super influential into how we view and kind of like look at ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have conversations with people in person. So we, be in a country and talk to somebody, and they would be very short with us. So it'd be like, like, how was your day? Good. That's it. Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, so where are you from? Here. That's it. And that was the conversation. It was just like, okay, cool. Like, and then we'd go home, and they'd send us a message or a DM, paragraphs.
Wow.
And we were just like, what the heck? Like, they weren't even talking to us in person.
Wow.
What happened was that there was a language barrier. Even though they knew and comprehended and could even speak English, they were a little nervous to have the conversation.
Oh.
So they would want to go home, double check their grammar, put it in a paragraph, and then send that to us.
Wow.
So what we saw was that the online engagement was way more beneficial as far as like talking to people, developing just relationship. And then in person, once we developed that relationship, they were way more comfortable to speak in English. So this was 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. So what we saw was like online first or digital first creates a sense of like comfort.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't really know you.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I want to share with you.
Yeah.
I don't want you to judge me.
Yeah.
So,
and I can choose my words.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we saw that, and then the digital first approach was basically modeled after that.
Okay.
And then working with refugees, without speaking too much in detail of what's going on, basically a lot of the countries that are closed to the idea of Christianity, there are Christian churches that the majority of their communication happens online because they can't do it in public. They can't do it in person.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, we're over here testing the waters and like, we're trying something new.
Right.
And it's like, these guys have been doing it for the last like 5-10 years because they can't do anything else. So that context alone was like, if there's people against the idea of digital or like, hey, this and that, it's like, well, in the end, your church won't work in that country. Yeah. So what do you do? Yeah. And most of the time, the people that argue it, they're really intertwined with, and I'll say this delicately, the financial obligations that are involved in a traditional brick and mortar setting. Yeah. And so with that, there are challenges in and of itself. I'm not saying anything negative about that. I'm just saying that it's to be intertwined like that, you push against anything that kind of brings some discomfort. So for me, digital first just makes sense. Yeah. So I don't know about you.
No, it makes sense for me too. I've been in ministry. I was a pew baby. I was born in the church basically. My dad was a pastor of the same church. He's still pastoring the same church. Going on his 45th year, traditional, black church. And I used to just sit in there, and it gave me my foundation. But I wanted to reach people who were disenfranchised by church. So I started, my church Remnant. And, I started preaching when I was 20 years old. I just wanted to give my life to God early and just give him all my energy. I didn't want to wait till I was old and stuff like that. And I just tried to evolve and never stay in the traditions that, kind of make the word of God of no effect. I mean, the Bible says that. And so I would just read the Bible and see what we were doing in traditional churches. And I'm like, we got to do something different. Yeah. And so, before Facebook was a thing and YouTube, I was recording videos and trying to get into it, doing online Bible studies, doing a teleconference Bible study. So it's something that, for me, I embraced technology real early. And, it's funny to just go back and see all the stuff. And then, remember the grunge graphics that I was in?
Yes.
Like, man, I used to use all that. So there's all those grunge colors and designs. And I just... wanted to reach people who couldn't either come to church or people that had moved away from our church and was like, moved to actually LA. And I used to tell people, I am a pastor of multi-site because I have members in California that attend online before it was a real thing. And so then the pandemic showed us we should have been there. And so with 12 Church, in 2019, I was already developing an idea for a digital church, IG Church, basically. And, you know, I know Life Church they started the Bible app, and they were already into the virtual space. And then, you know, meeting Ashley, it was like, cool, like finally got a creative where we can come together and present this thing in a way where we take the gospel and like a digital display of what Jesus would have been doing today.
Yeah.
You know, so Jesus would have been down here in the Arts District. He would have been preaching in front of the Kobe mural or whatever, you know, and people would have followed him. And then now with Meta coming, you know, we've seen it in the movies how everything was virtual, like the Avengers, they show the video screens. And people don't know it. It's been preparing us. And we were on Zoom and doing Zoom churches. But people were still doing it in a traditional way on the digital platform. And I had told my uncle and my aunt who really trained me in youth ministry and really helped form my identity to be a creative and do music and arts. I told them, you know, instead of just preaching every Sunday, why don't you just sit down and have a conversation, like do it in the living room, switch up the environment so it's fresh.
Yeah.
Because you know, some churches who have the budgets can do that, but you can do it on a small scale, you know? Yeah. And we have inspired people already to start doing those plants. And, you know, with Meta, we were at the Complex Con, you know, this week, and we talked to this guy about NFTs.
Yeah.
And just like I'm like, yo, the church has to be in that space.
Yeah.
Because the tithes and offering, I had this conversation 10 years ago, tithes and offering are not going to sustain the church like it once did. And so we have to think about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and how that's going to affect the kingdom, and find those creatives and maybe just hire them.
Yeah.
They don't have to be a believer right away. What if you hiring them and the discipleship that comes with that relationship, just being an employee, what if that just blossoms into them coming to the faith? You know, I think we're afraid to do that. We always want to hire Christian people. I'm not saying hire nobody's crazy religious beliefs or whatever, but we already had that conversation off camera. But it's just, I think that's how we're going to reach people, because the Generation Z and these new pandemic babies that were born, we don't know what we're going to see in the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's different.
It really is. And so the guy who was talking about NFTs was describing what we saw in Back to the Future too. They're making houses with digital frames to put NFTs in now. And so if housing builders are already switching up their format and adapting and evolving, why does the church always have to stay in the traditions? You know,
right.
We can still have the traditional theology, but our methodology has to change.
Yeah, there's Amazon, who I'm not endorsing or saying like we should model after them, but they
send us a check.
Yeah, what they do pretty well is they every day when they go in, they ask two questions: where are our customers going, and how do we beat them?
Wow.
And the idea of innovation within the church has always been about reaction.
Yep.
So it's always been about like, how do we react to the situation that just happened?
Yep.
You know, all the things going on socially, politically, and it's never been about like, how do we get there before these issues arise? Like, and so for me, I got to give a shout out to DJ Soto, DJ Soto Live on Instagram.
Okay.
Because he, you know, we talk about Meta, we talk about, you know, how Facebook's pushing into the VR, and if you've seen that movie Ready Player One, you ever seen it?
I've seen the trailer. Yeah,
okay.
I know what it's about.
That's where we're going.
Of course.
And so you have
that's what I thought about too when I saw Meta.
You got DJ Soto Live.
Yeah.
And he has his VR church. And he's been doing it already for quite some time.
See?
And so, like, for me, I look at this guy and I'm like, man, I've been playing checkers. He's been playing chess.
Yeah.
Because it's just this reality of, like, where is everybody going?
Yep.
You know, and then even Lux Digital Church, Mark Lutz, he's doing great stuff digitally.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, all these guys who are doing these things, they're pushing into this space before it was, like, acceptable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like 12 Church, the idea of 12 different cities, digital first, like it's got its own kind of unique perspective perspective,
Yeah.
unique approach. And I am, for one, of saying this. I still love the brick and mortar church.
Yes.
I still love Sunday.
I love
As a matter
it
of
too.
fact, there are days that I miss it.
Yeah.
I miss being part of the culture.
All the time.
You know, getting dressed on Sunday
Right.
morning, showing up, hey,
Shouting,
what's up, everybody?
crying in church, lifting your hands. Yeah, I
it's
love
like
it.
I miss that sometimes
Yeah.
because we're not actively doing that.
Yeah.
But I do miss that. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm also like, but there's this other space over here that no one's pushing into. And I think that's something that I value what's over here.
Yeah.
I value what has been done. But at the same time, I don't purposely position it to be the thing that we need to keep doing.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, like, you're right. Message stays the same.
Yep.
Method changes.
Yep.
And I think that's a big deal when it comes to digital.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
think that's it.
The thing about Jesus is he did the same thing.
Yeah.
It was traditional. They had their temples. They had their synagogues. He goes in, either preaches in them or he's preaching out on the Sermon on the Mount. He's preaching in the vineyard. He's preaching in the fields. That's you see the evolution of ministry going from the Old Testament to the New Testament, Old Covenant, New Covenant, and Jesus bringing this new authority and new wave of ministry. And if we don't ride that wave, we'll miss it. Like surfers, you know, I got a friend who's a surfer. And if you don't catch a wave, like you're not just gonna get out there and be the best surfer that you can be. You'll miss it. You'll miss it and sitting there and watching the waves and everybody's having fun but you. And I don't want our traditional churches to be left in the dust and be, you know, like, well, we don't know what to do. That's why succession plans are necessary.
Yes.
That's why having young people, and I know that young people do give. And then people like, oh, well, older people give more than young people do. Yes, but young people give to what they like. So maybe if we just design some things in a church context that didn't feel too religious, they would give.
Yeah.
And we would, like, if they see us, you know, enriching our community, like Nipsey was pastoring his community.
Yeah.
You can say he's not a pastor or not, but the leadership, he was leading his community to embrace each other, build wealth in his community and enrich it. And the church has to not forget their purpose to go into the world and turn it upside down.
Yeah.
For Christ.